everybody. It is Thursday. So here we are. I'm with Keith, and we are going to talk the least dangerous game. So if you haven't been watching, this is the second episode of season 3 of Lower Decks. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little bit about the joke that it's making in the title. We're going to talk about our feelings and thoughts, and then, go through the Easter egg hunt. So that's the plan. And if I can find the intro, I'm going to roll that beautiful bean footage. But the finding of it might be a little bit of a challenge. Y'all, it's been that kind of week. I'm not even going to joke. It's been that kind of week. All right, here we go. I got this. All right. I did find the beautiful bean footage. I'm very proud of myself.
Well done. Well done.
Some days it's baby steps, y'all. Some days it's baby steps. All right. So the least dangerous game. Let's talk a little bit about where that title comes from. And I suspect Keith has thoughts.
Well, it's most obviously a reference to the short story, The Most Dangerous Game, written in 1924 by Richard Connell. It's then been adapted into TV episodes and movies and various other things over the years. And it's actually considered one of the best short stories ever written. And winner of the O. Henry Award upon its publication in 1924.
That's pretty high praise.
Yes. And for those that don't know, it's a case of you have a man who is a big game hunter that ends up marooned on an island after his yacht sinks. And the island in the Caribbean, he finds himself under the care of a Russian aristocrat, and then finds that aristocrat actually set it up so that he would crash and then end up on his island so he could then hunt him, because man is truly the most dangerous game.
And then since that publication, we've seen a number of iterations in other media. We've seen films. Most recently, was it Chris Hemsworth? I think it was a Chris Hemsworth miniseries that was on the interwebs for a while there.
Loosely based off of it, yes.
I mean, right, like all the scare quotes for that. But yeah. But yes, that's the most important concept, right? Is that, we have someone hunting sentience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little bit of like Predator in there too.
Yeah.
All right, we're joined by Michael. Holy crap. It's been a minute. Crickets. Hello.
Let's do that again.
Hi. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has.
Yeah. So, as you know, we are talking the least dangerous game. We're starting off by talking the most dangerous game because, we have to go. We can't. There's no middle dangerous game, right? Like, we can't have like that middle ground. No, it's got to be an extreme one way or the other.
Well, there are middles, like rabbits, I would say, are kind of middle dangerous.
No. Outside of one particular rabbit, I feel like they're pretty much on the lowest end of that spectrum.
Okay. That's fair.
Right. And there's your mandatory Monty Python reference for tonight, guys. All right. So that's kind of where the title comes from, right? Is they're riffing off of this concept. And so, like, we have Cranch. Guys, can we talk about this name for a second? I was just, I'm like, I don't even know where to go with this. I'm like, Cranch? Are we I mean, because I watched all of these things with like subtitles on, so it's literally like Ranch, and I'm like, are we talking about the dressing? Is that where we're getting this?
Well,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I was watching this over my lunch break, so that might have had something to do with it.
well, according to the showrunner, it was inspired by Tosk, and then when they started to come up with it, they came up with Cranch, and he didn't think of it as Ranch, but Jack Quaid pointed it out to him, and then he suddenly couldn't see it any other way.
It's good to know that I'm up there with Jack Quaid. Everybody. Murray and Jack Quaid, we're tight.
Right. I did pick up on the notes back to Tosk, and I thought it was cute in that they also made it kind of non-lethal, a non-lethal sport this time. But
also, can we talk about the amazeballsness of that selfie stick?
Yes.
Oh yes.
I'm not gonna lie, like I really loved every bit of that. Go Cranch. All right. So now that we've talked a little bit about where the title comes from, let's talk about what actually happens in the episode. Just briefly. Hey, Michael, you want to do this one? I have been foisting this. I've been foisting this on Keith now, and it's not fair. And like I have all the power, so I refuse to do it.
Sure. I watched it on the train earlier when I was commuting. So feel free.
Man, are you going to tell me that the Metro now has like consistent internet access?
Welcome to DC, baby.
Hey, I lived in DC for ages. It did not. It did not.
Yeah, I think it actually got installed in like 2016.
Yeah, they had a contractor.
They started installing in 2016. They finished in like 2017, 2018.
Oh my God. I clearly have been gone too long. I need my long khaki exile needs to end.
Well, this week's episode, of course, opened with the best game that I've ever seen played in Star Trek. Bump three-dimensional chess.
Oh, way better than Candace got.
Right? And it's video interactive too.
Exactly.
Oh, come on. That would make DMing so much easier if you could just basically have I guess now Chancellor Martok just calculate all your rolls for you.
Yep.
Yes. And the triumphant return of J.G. Hertzler to the role.
I know. That made me so happy.
I will say before I continue, I just love all the recalls back to like quote unquote traditional Trek. Like I just love it. It is the best part of Lower Decks. Like, thank you. I kept wanting to say Discovery for some reason, but it's like the best part. Like all of this, it's just like all this nostalgia. Come back, grab my heart, hold me.
Right, can we also briefly talk about the fact that it's not only just a callback to the actual Trek. This is a callback not only to Dungeons and Dragons. I'm jumping the gun here, but we're gonna go with it. Again, I have all the power, so I can do that. This is also a callback to Trek swag, because Milton Bradley actually had a video, video interactive board game that actually featured everybody's favorite O'Reilly as a Klingon hijacker. So Gowron.
Yes.
Not Martok.
Well, as Boimler did notice, he's been trying to get the Gowron expansion. I
know. I caught that. And I was just like...
Well, by the way, speaking of referential, it also had 2 references to itself in lines of dialogue. So it's self-referential to its own show in this week's episode.
Yes, it is. All right. So we are going to let you finish now.
Okay.
No,
maybe.
All good.
I mean, fingers crossed. We'll see. We'll see.
So we opened up with this amazing game show reference, and in it we see all of our main characters sitting there having a discussion. And we
in
know
costume.
In costume, yes. And I hope that they're doing a callback to lighter toned Klingons. I caught that on Boimler. If you all could tell from his head wrap, head dressing cap. I don't know what to call it. Whatever it is.
His prosthetic forehead. Let's go there. I get really uncomfortable when we start talking about head wraps. I'm just like, this is skewing into bad places.
But yes, and so we're all there, and we really start with Boimler. Boimler starts to realize, like, oh my gosh, I am not adventurous. I am not taking all this risk because I forgot the guy's name. He was
Vendome. Yeah.
Vendel, who is a Bolian, has been promoted to captain. Hashtag Bolian representation. He's also formed a whole Bolian bridge crew, but we'll get to that in a moment.
It's Bolian supremacy, guys.
Right.
No longer just hairdressers, man.
Right, and so they're pointing out that a lot of the problems with Boimler that we've seen over the years, he tries to plot every moment of his career instead of just letting his career happen and falling into those moments of leadership and those moments of risk. And
actually,
so,
I think it's Tendi that tells him this.
Yes.
By the way, like it's not that. No. Boims never gets that kind of self-awareness, guys. Right. I mean, come on. Come on.
Very true, very true. But it was a really great representation, and I thought it was really well done because it's like, and Tendi even referenced, like, I didn't end up in training to be chief science officer. I didn't plan on it. It just kind of happened, and now I'm here. And so
it's awesome.
Exactly, and Tendi is probably my second favorite character. So I'm very interested to see where
so
that
much
goes.
love for Tendi.
Yeah.
But we also see this moment where we know that Mariner is being pulled and being under a microscope right now this season. And so she's been being called out to an away mission about an hour before the reporting has to be done. And so it was a really great to show just how much pressure she's really being put on. Shout out to Jack Quaid for applying that pressure. So once we get a little bit further in the story, we find out that there are either orbital lifts or space elevators or planet elevators or things that
I'm gonna go with space elevators because that's what they are.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at least they're not drilling platforms.
Exactly.
Yes. That was the worry. Yes.
It looked a little like that, didn't it? I was like,
Well, in the trailer, when you saw her diving off of it, we're like, oh no, is this a Star Trek 09 reference?
And yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, it is. All right, Michael, come on.
All good. And so we then have Ransom and
Phillips
and
Mariner. Oh my God, our engineering folks. Why am I forgetting names?
Phillips and Rutherford.
Samantha and Rutherford
are all there, despite having the perfect crew to fix the drilling platform, the orbital lift. See what we've done? Ransom makes the most horrible decision to send his engineers off to be diplomats, while his diplomats decide to be engineers.
No. He's being a dick.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, I mean, this is not a terrible decision. This is literally I'm going to screw with Mariner decision.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's really one of the worst decisions I've ever seen in Star Trek, but it did set up a beautiful plot.
Right.
Back on the ship, we see that Boimler is having a great time in living in his year of yes. I feel like this was a callback to Oprah. In the year of yes that we experienced in 2019. Was that 2019 or 2018? One of those.
I am going to defer to you. I confess I haven't actually kept up.
I think it's more back to the Jim Carrey movie Yes Man.
Yeah. But in any case, Boimler decides to open himself up to new experiences.
And he's having some really great experiences and realizing that saying yes is getting him noticed and he's feeling good, which makes him, of course, go overboard as he always does. And he decides whoever comes to me next I'm going to say yes to. And who does he run into? Marie's favorite character,
Cranch. Cranch. Who was that alien on Space Ghost? That's who he reminds me of.
Oh, the bug guy.
Yes.
Was it Mantis or?
Hell, I don't know. But like that's who the character design reminded me of. Like I know he's supposed to be, inspired by Tosk, but that's not what I'm seeing, guys. Like that's just not what I'm seeing. I was like, okay, I get it. I know what you're trying to do here, but also
Are you saying
also
Zorak?
that Space Ghost. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes. But I'm seeing crack. That's what I'm seeing. Which somehow made it so much better.
Coast to coast.
or in my case, the actual original cartoon, because I'm old.
Can I tell you, I did not know there was an actual original cartoon.
Yep.
I won't tell you my age, but I wasn't old enough to know that there was an original cartoon.
Space Ghost. Yeah, no, it was a thing.
And so from that, we find a beautiful moment ensues where Boimler is being hunted. Being hunted all around the ship. We're finding out that Cranch, in the end, Boimler finds out that he has a little bit more fight in him than we expect. And he takes some time to actually become and realize, I'm going to be the hunter.
Right. And then he goes full Schwarzenegger.
Right.
That's what he does.
With a full compression rifle, a full-on Voyager compression rifle, which I loved.
I know, it was such a Janeway BFG.
and the bowl from the chips and dip that they had for playing the game on his head.
Yeah. Which is such a Boimler touch, right? Like, I mean,
head protection is always required. And
this has been a Trekker's Delight Safety Awareness.
And after a brief encounter, we find out that Cranch is actually non-violent. And
non-lethal.
Non-violent?
Non-lethal.
In his hunting techniques.
Tiny difference there, but
Dude,
it means
that
a lot.
motherfucker put a spear through somebody.
Well,
I mean, if that is non-violent, Michael, I feel like we need to have a long conversation about your life and possibly some of your choices. Just saying.
Listen. Whatever floats your boat.
That does not. No. I do not want to be stuck like a pig. I'm good for life. So yes, he discovers that Cranch
we have a beautiful
is literally doing catch and release.
Right.
And loves mimosas.
Who doesn't?
So after he's stabbed with his said spear, we have a beautiful moment of selfies, and we find out that Boimler acquires some nerve damage. But back on the orbital lift, Mariner and Ransom are having a really rough time together. And Mariner, even though she actually stayed far longer than I thought she would, decides to, of course, go her own way after she realizes, after Billups and oh my God, why is
Rutherford?
Why is it? I literally see the voice actor's face in my head, but I can't remember his character's name. But after they realize that they're having some problems for not having exposed navels. Shout out back to TNG.
Justice. I'm sorry.
And original series as well.
Yes. The Apple.
No,
the aliens. The aliens themselves are patterned after the aliens in the Apple.
Well, I was thinking more. Was it All Our Yesterdays? The one with the library and going back in time. Shoot, hold on. You continue. I'll look it up.
I mean, everybody, we can tell that Keith's a librarian because he's like, I have the power to find it out.
I will find it. Well,
right.
Listen, shout out to both of you because I feel like I see things and I'm like, oh, this one episode here. And you all are like, no, there are like 5 episodes.
But yeah, no, basically what's happening is Rutherford and Billups are living the Justice life, which is not one of TNG's best offerings, not gonna lie. And we're about to welcome Jason to the party. Hi, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Let's talk about that hat for a second, my dude.
It's a good hat.
I actually have a little barbershop experience that I'm now wearing a hat.
Dun, dun, dun.
Go with God, my friend. Go with God.
You know.
And so 30 seconds and I'll do wrap us up right here on our recap. And so Mariner decides to go and rescue Rutherford and Phillips. In the middle, Ransom actually...
I'm so proud. You got it. You got it the first go there.
I know, right?
So proud.
Ransom realizes that he is just being a dick. And so he gives way and decides to allow... say that, hey, we're going to go and follow what was Mariner's original plan to escape and go help them. And so she's literally has to throw a parachute, hop on her orbital lift, run up 1,000 stairs, it looked like, go through a rock climbing wall, and all of this just to parachute back down to the ground again and save the day, where we have a beautiful Ransom expose his navel and his beautifully sculpted body.
I was about to say, like,
baby.
this is literally diplomacy by abs.
Yeah, I did not actually see his navel, but we definitely saw his abs.
No, I did. Yeah, no. Navel
It had to be
schmable, man.
exposed in
Like,
there somewhere.
Yeah.
and that was such a Kirk moment too, by the way. Like, it really was.
And so we, of course, have our Ransom save the day. Once again, another time that Ransom is saving the day. Previously, when he was in, what was that, season 2, where he decided to fight and save the day. Whip out those abs again.
Season 1.
And then we wrap up the episode in a beautiful moment with a lot of sexual tension between Ransom and Mariner in his office, where they are saying, Marie, we can talk about it once we dive into a couple more questions, where they kind of thank each other and realize that
apparently I'm bad at sexual tension.
Huh?
Apparently I'm just bad at sexual tension. I would not have called it that.
But they
be
realize that things aren't as bad and that they actually kind of can work together. They just need to cut each other a little bit of slack and kind of figure out their groove together. But overall, it was to me, I think it was an excellent episode, and it set us up for a great next episode 3 of season 3.
There we go. Hey, look, it's only 20 minutes in, guys.
And we finally finished the recap.
We got the recap done. So, all right. Let's, I guess, start with the A-plot. Let's talk about what's going on with Mariner. Who wants to talk a little bit about that? I say Jason.
Right. No. I mean, okay, this is what I'm going to say. I didn't know exactly what the show was about today, and I haven't watched the episode. So,
well, we still love your opinion on the show.
I mean, right, be here at all?
No, you absolutely 100% should, because like when we get into the shenanigans, you're gonna have to call us back and be like, nah, like
yeah, we need a safe word for you, Jason.
Should I just be in my house under my hat?
I mean, speaking of sexual tension, man, like this show got a lot more interesting real fast, didn't it? I just didn't know it was going to be that kind of an evening. I'd have worn a completely different outfit. Sometimes the Georgia's just got to come out. But anyway, all right. So Mariner, Keith, tell me about Mariner. What do you feel? What are your thoughts?
Well, in her final scene, the realization that she wants to be there, wants to be on the Cerritos, wants to be with her friends, and that she knows this is really her last chance. That's why she waited until the absolute last minute to give up on Ransom. And when you realize she actually was doing the job, she was fixing it. The stuff that wasn't working was the stuff Ransom was fixing. He's the one who didn't make sure that the systems were polarized properly before he reinstalled the piece. And
then apparently Googled Delanian orbital lift repair.
Yeah. Right.
He's like, I'm on YouTube that shit.
And
like literally everyone who has ever YouTubed that shit, it did not work out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, he definitely he should have been on the ground. That is for certain. And Mariner could have probably done it by herself. And in fact, him being there actually was more of a distraction to her. But yeah, she was. You could tell that this is a different Mariner than we've had in seasons 1 and 2. I mean, season 1 ended with, of course, the realization about who her mother is. Season 2, almost losing her mom. to she thought that was going to be locked away. So now we see a Mariner actually wants to do her job, and it's so different from what we've had in the first 2 seasons.
Agreed 1,000%. And I love that we knew from season 2 that Mariner is a kick-ass officer.
Mm-hmm.
Like we really saw when she's a goofball, but she is a kick-ass officer. And so I love that they showed that technical side of her too, and we're able to show she can do any job in Starfleet. It's just a matter of her sucking it up and grunting it out and doing it, which she doesn't want to, of course, but to get it done and to stay on the Cerritos, she's willing to do it. And I love that they're showing that about her, that she's doing the hard work. And I think that they're really, fingers crossed, setting her up for a very nice promotion at the end of this season.
I gotta tell you,
are they turning her into a Mary Sue?
That's been true. That's been true. That was true in season 1.
It's a cartoon, so it's fine.
Yeah. So I actually kind of disagree. I see this as being, sort of vintage Mariner, right? Like, because one of the things that Mariner is obsessed with is having a certain amount of control over her environment. And right now, she's basically been told that if you want to have any sort of input on your future, you got to suck it up, pull up your big girl britches, and stop sucking. No pun. I mean, in nicer terms, right? I do think it was. I really love actually that her mother is like, I need to back off. Like, I can't be that oversight for you. It will never work. So I really love that she passed it off to Ransom. But again, I just don't see this as being a new facet of Mariner's character. I really just sort of see this as being a continued growth, because Mariner's whole shtick actually has been that she tends to allow her emotional reality and her emotional conflicts to dictate what she does. And frequently that shoots her in the foot. Frequently. Yeah. And she's basically got to get pulled out by all of these other characters. We know she's competent. We've known she's competent from the jump. We also know that she has emotional awareness, because we certainly saw her dealing with that with Boimler very early on. Anybody remember the Ferengi? I remember the Ferengi. So yeah, like, and that's actually kind of my overall dissatisfaction with this episode. Like, this episode doesn't really go anywhere. Doesn't really do anything. It's fun. No, and believe me, I am certainly going to be a champion of fun, because I don't think Star Trek always has to be about grand moral problems or detailed character arcs. Sometimes weird shit happens in space. All right. Mm-hmm. I mean, weird shit happens in my job, and I'm not in space. It's not even that cool. I work from home, but I still get weird shit. So, like, I mean, some days are just like that. But I've always liked
that aspect.
Right. I'm becoming a little frustrated, though, with this episode. I know we're 2 episodes in, but like, when we're looking at a 10, 13 episode season, that's 10. A lot. It's a 10 episode season, right? So 2 episodes in, we're having an almost Simpson-esque return to the status quo. And I'm a little frustrated with that, guys. Like, one of the things that Lower Decks has demonstrated in the past that it's really good at doing is finding this great balance between being funny and wacky and zany, but also doing something with it. And I'm just not sure that season 3 is kind of leaning into that. I have the same problem with what happens with Boimler. Mm-hmm. I know somebody's going to tell me Bold Boimler is new. No, Bold Boimler is not new. Bold Boimler is Boimler doing exactly what he has done since episode 1, season 1, which is, I mean, we go full throttle, right? I mean, it's all or nothing for this kid. Like, there's no concept of moderation, which is the point that Tendi tries to make. Yeah. And Boimler's like, yeah, no, that's just not me. And it's really not. And so now what he's doing is he's leaning into the fact that he's getting attention. He's getting feedback from these people that he wants it from, and he's taking it to a really negative place, which has always been the threat with what was going on with Boimler, which is a really weird thing to talk about when we're talking about an animated comedy, but there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Keith.
the moment that we have been teased about Bold Boimler. Tawny Newsman mentioned it in talks about look forward to seeing Bold Boimler coming up. Now, when he stepped out and he called himself Bold Boimler, the thought that came in my head to see is I played Star Trek Timelines. I played it for the past 4 years now, and you have your crew cards, and they just introduced Lower Decks into the game a month ago. And we started getting the different crew cards. And I know for certain within a month and a half, we're going to have Bold Boimler as a crew card. And it's going to be him with the bow on his head, holding the rifle. Maybe he'll have the spear in his shoulder. We don't know. But I know that we're going to get that crew card from that moment. And it just, the fact that the show began and ended with them playing a game. You have the reference to Most Dangerous Game with the Hunt with the Cranch. That's just another part of it that's kind of a game reference to me. That it was almost like they created that moment of him calling himself that as if to set up the connection with the Timelines game.
I 100% agree that we're going to see Bold Boimler as a player card, and as Captain Greer in Star Trek Timelines. Feel free to add me to your fleet.
Hey, my fleet has a few openings if you're looking for a new home.
I confess, I have literally never ever played this game.
Oh my god, it's amazing! I've invested so much money in it, but let's not talk about
that. way better than Fleet Command.
Yeah, way better. But so Marie, I definitely understand your point. I think that here's something that they haven't done. I feel like season 1 and season 2, they ran right into the story and started they didn't necessarily do as much character development up front. I felt like they did character development throughout the season, and you really grew during both seasons with the characters. A little bit less in season 2, but you saw a progression. I feel like this season, they're stacking kind of the development up front. And I think they're kind of laying the groundwork for us to go a little bit deeper on the story in the latter episodes. And to your point, I think that all of the elements that we're seeing, and we're talking about the Bold Boimler, the more disciplined mariner, I think that we've seen all of these elements before, but we didn't see them as prominent in episodes. And I think what they're trying to do is make these kind of underlining tones that have been building in season 1 and season 2, make them more prominent and make the justification for either promotions or that next level. Because you can't stay an ensign forever. And
Harry Kim would disagree.
I knew that was coming up.
In fact, literally, that's like a line in the episode. I'll be an ensign forever, and everyone's like, nah, and it's like, yeah, no, Harry Kim.
But even though it had to happen in an alternative timeline, Harry Kim did become a captain.
My dude. My dude.
A timeline that got erased.
But it did happen.
The universe was like, no.
Yeah, no, the universe self-corrected there, my dude. Like, no.
So, but I really think in just the feel that I'm getting thus far is that they're setting up a lot of storyline and a lot of story development to take us a little bit deeper and justify some movement and some progression that we're going to see later on in the episode. Also,
I'd hope so, but again, I keep going back to this sort of almost mandatory reestablishment of the status quo. And in this case, in this episode, it's particularly obvious, right? Because we literally go back to what we were doing at the very beginning of the episode. So it bookends effectively there.
Yeah.
And again, I sort of feel like maybe this is an intentional callback to The Simpsons. Maybe it's not, because I know that was part of The Simpsons episode series Bible, was that it had to go back to the status quo. We had to start from the same place every time. Mm-hmm. And it just got progressively crazier over the, I don't know, Jesus, was it 20 years of Simpsons? It felt
32 years.
It's been a very long time. 30, yeah, it's been at least 30 years. It's been more than 30 years.
It came out in 1990.
Can we just not say that out loud? Thanks.
No, they came,
Just not say that out loud.
they debuted in the 80s.
By the way, happy
on the
birthday,
Tracy, on
Marie.
the Tracy Ullman show. It was in
Yeah,
the
thank
80s.
you. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. Thanks. I'm sorry, Jason. Please continue.
No, I said they debuted in the 80s on the Tracy Ullman show.
Yeah, that was pretty legit. But so I don't know. I just sort of feel like that's what's going on. And I'm kind of wondering if Lower Decks is maybe losing its focus a little bit in this season, which, fine, fair. But we'll see. Again, 2 episodes in, this is kind of an initial run.
Yeah, and we don't know where they're going to be next week. I mean, if it looks like Boimler has actually learned from what he did this week, if there's that better connection with Shax, if he's no longer scared of Lundy, then maybe then this episode definitely shows some character growth. But I definitely saw a difference in Mariner. I saw the essentials for improvement of Boimler, and it was nice seeing them split up differently. We saw Tendi with Boimler, which we haven't seen since There's Something About Boimler from season 2, and we saw Rutherford technically hanging out with Mariner. So not the usual lineups there of Boimler and Mariner and Tendi and Rutherford.
Yeah, I did like that, and I think that the structure of this show is calling my mind back to Star Trek Picard, season 2. I know, you know how I feel about Picard.
I'm sorry, like
Yeah,
that's a full body twitch there. That's a full
you
body
know how
twitch.
I feel about Picard, but the structure, I shouldn't say the episode, the season, because they did a lot of character development in season 2 of Picard up front. Like,
Yes.
They tried to shove all of the character development up front, and then they tried to backload the story and just like truncated it, and it made no sense. But I'm getting that feel a little bit from how this season is kicking off, which also may be, speaking to Keith's point earlier, there may be some not as much liberty and as much freedom being given to Lower Decks, and somebody may be kind of stepping in a little bit more to be like, we need to do some alignment here, because remember, what's his face's show, Will Wheaton's show,
Ready Room.
Ready
the
Room.
Ready Room. Lower Decks this is the first time Lower Decks has started having Ready Rooms.
Mhm.
They didn't do that.
Valid point.
You're right.
Yeah, that's a valid point. Like
That's correct.
that's
They
coming
didn't
sort of out of nowhere.
do. Again, back to Keith's point, they just introduced Lower Decks. Lower Decks has been out for almost 3 years, and they just introduced it into the game. So they're really, I think they saw it as kind of an offshoot a little bit.
It's
And
both
that-
timelines and Fleet Command. So
Yeah, and I think that what is now happening is someone in production is like, wait a minute, Lower Decks is actually doing pretty well. We need to kind of no, I'm serious.
No. I completely understand.
No,
It's like,
think
oh
it was
my
more,
god.
I think it was more like it was something you're supposed to have fun with, but not necessarily take as serious as you took a lot of shows. Even though you wanted to be interested in it and watch it for like more fun than like, argue about the canon of the show, like,
Mhm.
And then they saw the ratings and people were actually watching it and talking about it and treating it a little more serious than, just some like off-sided cartoon.
Because I got to
and they're
admit,
like, okay, let's dive into the characters more and let's dive into the show more.
I was initially extraordinarily skeptical of Lower Decks. I was, because they were like, from the creators of Rick and Morty, and I'm like, that's not a group that needs to come into my fandom.
I don't know. I love Rick and Morty, man.
So,
Like,
okay, no, I'm not saying
I
I
do
don't
not
have.
like Rick and Morty at all.
I don't have.
That's
I'm not.
just
This
me.
is not about Rick and Morty, right?
That's
This is
just
not
me.
about Rick and
No,
Morty.
it's just me. Yeah.
My issue is that Rick and Morty is a show that is very much about nihilism,
Mhm.
and the meaninglessness of existence, and all the shenanigans that kind of like derails from there, and that is antithetical to Star Trek.
True.
Because Star Trek is very much not. There's not necessarily like a higher power. Sorry, Shax. Hate to break it to you. They're aliens, not gods.
There's the koala.
It is. It's the right. It's the koala.
And in the Star Trek logo before the episode begins, the koala is in the stars behind the Cerritos going around.
Yep.
Yeah, but it's the idea of taking. That's right. Rick and Morty goes hard. That's right, Mike.
Yeah.
It's the idea of taking an idea and going a little absurd with it for the comic effect. Like, it's a cartoon. You don't have to take it as seriously, but you take an idea, you can make it absurd. Like Mr. Meeksy and
right.
Rick and Morty
Again,
cracks me up. That whole episode cracks me up.
Right. That's the ultimate absurdism of the universe, which is why there's not really any purpose in trying to save anything or trying to do anything.
Absurd. It's absurd that we all here anyway. Anything's here.
Right. But also, we're still watching Star Trek because fundamentally, Star Trek's not. Well, I watch Star Trek because it's fundamentally not about that. It's fundamentally about cooperation and finding a way forward and trying to be the best version of ourselves. And I'm going to harp on that until like the sky falls down, because I think that's so important in media, right? Is to see that kind of hope and to see that and not just that hope, but also that affirmative obligation that it's on you to do something.
Well, yeah, but then there's this there's an aspect that like sometimes they go too hard with that, and it's just like we do that. But as we know, people today, we are more fallible.
But I think that's part of
that's built into it. That's absolutely built into it, right?
Okay.
Like, I mean, yes, not only do the characters stumble and not get it right, the franchise stumbles and doesn't get it right. But the point is every time that happens, every time we get that stumble, we have the opportunity to learn, to get back up, and to do better, right? Because that's what it is. It's the affirmative obligation to be better than you were yesterday.
Oh, that sounds hard. Okay.
I mean, it's a big ask.
Life.
It's a big ask, though, right? I mean, it really
no, but that is what you should be doing in life.
Exactly.
That is what everyone should be doing.
Exactly.
Well, we asked Picard to be better in season 2 than it was in season 1, and they didn't do that.
I'm just telling you. I'm telling you that was a fumble. My fingers are crossed. My fingers are crossed as we're going to learn something better about season 3.
That wasn't a fumble. That was here, take this.
But to pull us back to Lower Decks just a bit.
Because I love it. Like every time we talk, Michael, we end up hating on Picard. Like that's a thing.
Oh, I agree. William hates it that I say this, but I think Picard season 2 was the worst season of Star Trek that I've ever seen, and I'll say that over.
That's tall. I don't know that it's quite there for me, but it was definitely not good.
But as a we can that can be a show in itself. We should have a show about how bad Picard was. But
I mean, we did. It was literally the live show every time Picard aired during season 2. All right. Coming back to Lower Decks, because Keith's over here like, all y'all are wrong.
Right. Keith is like uncomfortably quiet. First of all, I don't know this guy we just met. What's up, Keith?
Hey.
And Keith is uncomfortably quiet, like he wants to say something, but he doesn't
want
to.
No. I choose my battles.
which is again, Keith for all y'all are wrong. And I'm gonna school you later. Like
this is not that show for us to take 20 minutes to discuss it. So
not that you're wrong. I respectfully disagree.
Okay. Well done.
Well, Keith, we can debate that all day. But
back to Lower Decks.
So we talked a little bit about the structure of how everything is flowing. Are there any hopes for Tendi this season that anyone has for Tendi this season?
I mean, I always hope for Tendi. I want to know more about Pirate Tendi. Desperately.
Is anyone concerned about the lengthy time that she spent in a towel talking to Boimler?
No.
I do. It was nice that.
I mean, one, she's an Orion. Two, like it's the 24th century, so like I'm assuming we don't care about bits anymore.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting that like once again Boimler. I mean, obviously there seems to be no tension between Boimler and Tendi whatsoever. So it meant nothing to him that she was sitting there, in only a towel.
Well, remember episode 1, Boimler did literally ignore every woman in America that was being thrown at him.
Yeah. Or at least every woman in Modesto, California. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Like I've never seen anybody cockblock themselves that hard. Like, that was impressive. It was impressive. Like, come on, man. She's inviting you back to the Raisin Hut to make out. Like, it's not just about sorting. Calm. Like, just get a clue. Get a clue. But no.
I did think that was kind of cute.
I mean, it's adorable. I mean, you know, like, we know he's not Ace because we've seen him, like, in relationships before.
Yes.
Although I did think about like a show about how many times Harry Kim cockblocked himself on Voyager. And
I mean,
several times.
Did Harry Kim open his mouth? Yes, no. If yes, cock blocking occurred. Like, I mean, like, I can write that flowchart, man.
He had more potential play, I think, than anybody on the show.
And then, they were like, but it can't be Harry, so we're going to hand all that play to Paris, who was just skeevy.
Right.
Yeah. Well, do we think that they named the planet of this episode based on the Delaney sisters? From
Absolutely.
Voyager?
That is 100% what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I didn't catch that.
They're Delanians. They're
Delanians.
Delanians.
I did not. Oh,
yeah, no, that's 100%.
I'm
That's 100%
right now, which is kind of.
Yeah, that's 100% there. Did you figure out what that TOS episode you were looking for was, Keith?
Yes, it was All Our Yesterdays, season 3. When the episode where they land on they go to the planet that's about to get taken out by the supernova, and they go to the past. Spock and McCoy get sent to the Ice Age where they find
Zarabeth. And this is where I was about to say, it's the lady with the Z name,
Yeah, Mariette Hartley. And when she was supposed to have a bare midriff, but the officials at NBC refused to allow them to let her show her navel. And
I mean,
you don't want to get the guys excited.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that could be.
When I started hearing the references to show your navel, that's where my mind went back to the fact that the original series, they wouldn't allow that.
Yeah. But for me, it was very much like it was the apple. Like, I looked at that. I was like, they are orange. They're wearing almost the same. Actually, they were wearing almost the same thing that the characters wore in Justice.
Yeah. It's definitely a mix of them, and they're all wellness societies. Is there the way they classify
them. Like, this is
Let's
very
just
much
call them what they are: pre-nudist colonies.
No, this is the sex planet. That's what it is.
Yes.
It's the sex planet phenomenon because Roddenberry had distinct ideas, is what I'm gonna say about that sort of thing.
And
so apparently the galaxy has lots and lots of sex planets, but that's where that was. And then, obviously the Rutherford Billups situation is taken directly from Justice. So we've got about a little more than 10 minutes. Do we want to do the Easter egg hunt?
I support it.
All right. So, Keith, you want to start?
Well, of course, we have the return of J.G. Hertzler as Martok on the game.
Who is his own Easter egg.
Yes.
I noticed that it was silent. I was like, is that Martok?
And of course, a reference to Gowron as well. So,
yes.
At the very end, there was a good Easter egg about money. And it called back to a DS9 episode where Jake Sisko had to remind Nog that we're Federation. We don't have any money. I thought that was very cute when they were trying to upgrade their expansion pack.
Mm-hmm. Right. This whole conversation about like Ferengi black market.
Right.
There's also a really fantastic, just out of order, just a fantastic moment where like Rutherford talks about like, differently shaped foreheads. And I'm like, yes, that's funny. Because that's literally every alien in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Ransom mentioned that,
nose ridges.
Nose ridges.
Nose ridges, yeah.
Well, there's infinite variations of foreheads.
Nose ridge?
Infinite
combination. Like, I see where you're going, man. I see. But also.
What is that? Oh, is that a Star Trek? Is that a Discovery emblem? What is that?
No, that's the Vulcan.
That's the Vulcan.
That's Idic, man.
Infinite diversity and infinite combinations. The thing Leonard Nimoy hated.
That only applies to foreheads.
Not the idea. He didn't hate the idea.
True.
He hated the symbol because he was really pissed that Roddenberry wanted to create swag.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that was. but yeah, so we've got, and then of course we've talked about Justice. Justice was a TNG episode where Will Wheaton as Wesley Crusher steps on a flower and gets sentenced to death
Hmm. And
because
Picard,
what the fuck?
and Picard just says no and takes him off after
Right.
pissing off the god of that planet.
You're right. He's
That was
he's like
that was an
prior directive,
episode-
Shrine directive. No, this is dumb. We're leaving now.
that was the episode that was like many episodes of TOS where at the end it just comes down to the captain talking to a god and out talking him in morality. There's not a lot of episodes in Star Trek to do that, and TNG is a couple episodes of TNG that do that, but TOS there's a lot of them where it just comes down to Kirk talking a god into morality to win the show. And
I can only imagine how that fed into Shatner's ego.
right?
Did Psychic Baby Corbomite maneuver, anybody?
Yeah. And of course, the evil computer. This one called the 355.
Yes.
There was the room in which they were playing the game.
Springboard.
Huh?
Springboard.
Springball.
Springball. Yeah, that's what it is.
No, not. Oh, Springball is of course
Deep
classic
Space Nine.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the Bajoran version of tennis. Yes.
Racquetball.
Well, it's
but not the Springball where they were actually playing the board game. The shuttle.
Well, that's in the room where they're always hanging out.
Yeah.
That is a very old shuttle. I think that shuttle actually design is that Well, that can't be TOS.
No, it's TNG. Era.
It's TNG.
It's the one that Shax flew with Rutherford over to the Pac-led ship in the final episode of season 1, and it's the one that they had been building just on their own on their free time.
Yeah.
Right, which is in itself a Voyager reference.
Yes. Then, of course,
For the Delta Flyer.
The two self-referential Easter eggs when Phillips and Rutherford are being sent down to the planet, and Ransom goes, "Now, don't you go get
Come
you
on,
made a
King!"
thing." And which Rutherford responded, "Maybe I'll change duty stations again." So both of them threw up some callbacks there,
which was nice.
So I'll ask this, like, because I noticed in Lower Decks there's a lot of Easter eggs like everywhere throughout the show. Does it like make you? Because sometimes you watch Star Trek, whatever Star Trek, even including J.J. Abrams, and you're like, did you guys watch Star Trek when you watch the show? Like the writers, you're like, did you guys actually watch the show? Do you feel like, does it make you feel happy when you watch Lower Decks? Because you're like, regardless, these guys know what the show is, regardless of what's happening in the show, whether I like the episode. These guys actually know what the show is. They've been there. They've seen it. They've been through it. Otherwise,
they too
couldn't
suffered
pull off
through the best of
episode.
both worlds and that awful gap.
Yes. Well, there was actually a Trek Culture video about this yesterday, which
Right.
they talked about how it seems to be now a requirement to write on Star Trek to have watched Star Trek, which is a good change.
Right?
Oh, only took 40 years. 50 years. What's the date? What's the date?
Right? I mean,
2022.
because I definitely get that feeling too, right? There's a lot of callbacks on Strange New Worlds and Discovery as well, and it's kind of shockingly subtle.
Strange
There,
New
it's not
Worlds.
as subtle, obviously, on
Mhm.
Lower Decks because we're dealing with a different show and a different purpose.
And they're purposefully doing it. I mean, there's stuff that they reference on Lower Decks that you're like, wait, would they actually know that? Would they know that Dr. Crusher had sex with a ghost?
Thank you.
That's why
Thank
with-
you for bringing
with
that
Lower
back.
Decks, with Lower Decks, at first I struggled with it because
Excuse
I thought
me.
I was like, oh,
We don't talk
she
about
pulled
that
a-
episode. We don't ever talk about that
she
episode.
pulled a Wolford. She pulled a Wolford on you. You got Wolford.
did. Yeah,
Wolf
you did.
Ford.
You got Wofforded.
Wolford. Is that what it is? Wolford.
I'm sorry.
I mean, Keith has
God.
been been stroking my pain with his finger since last night. So like,
oh snap! Oh, I don't. That's between y'all and y'all.
They're 2 time zones apart. It's okay.
That's between y'all and y'all.
all right,
I
Marco.
forgot
I was
what I was
wondering where
saying.
you were. Yes,
As it
and
should
we
be.
agree 100%. However, that's not always the case, is it?
Yep.
Not
It
at
has
all.
to
Yeah,
ask
actually,
anybody
but
that
it's
worked for J.J. Abrams.
Sometimes
Right.
they just grab people like, this is a story about this, go write about it. And then people go write about it. You
And
know,
I
then they fix it
think
up.
I think a little bit of that is necessary. It's okay to have somebody and just be like,
Yes.
hey, take this idea and go run with it. But they need to bring it back to people who are like, oh,
Does this make sense in series
in context.
context?
And then they
Right.
have to just like manipulate a new idea or a new concept into
Right.
canon. That
Right.
makes sense.
Right.
But I felt, again, I don't know what they were doing with Picard, but we won't. I'll stop
Again.
dissing.
Again,
I'll
we've
stop
seen that
dissing
hate.
Picard for Keith's sake. But Jason, how I always describe Lower
I'm
Deck
fine.
and Lower Decks, I say Lower Decks is makes fun of everything about Star Trek while still being Star Trek,
Right.
and that
Yes.
is what I love.
It's like Last Action Hero. It's like the Last Action Hero,
Yes.
right?
Which, okay,
Great movie.
Dirty Confession, one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
I
Very
love it.
underrated.
Oh,
Great movie.
what I think what I was saying before was, at first I struggled with Lower Decks because I thought it was really silly, but it was really Trek, and I was like, what is their audience? Is it too silly for adults? But new kids are not going to watch this because they're not going to get the references at all.
My kids
yeah.
And I
love
kept
this
going
show.
with it. And it's like,
Absolutely
no,
love it.
This is
I gotta tell you,
definitely-
mine are too
you
young.
have to be an actual Trekkie. You have to be an actual, not even adult. You have to be an actual Trekkie to like Lower Decks.
So again, though, I don't think that's true. I think Lower Decks has made usually strikes a really fantastic balance where it's okay if you don't know everything about it. It's okay if you're not, conversant with the fact that Ketracel White is a thing. Like, you don't have to know that to enjoy and get the humor and enjoy the story. This episode, however, really leaned into that. And I think that was kind of a problem because I really feel like if you were going to enjoy this episode, you needed to be aware of what they were dialogue with.
Mhm.
And that's kind of a drawback for me, really. Because I really want more people to get involved in the franchise. I want more people to stumble onto Trek and realize that it's the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, we need more viewers, obviously.
Mhm.
But also I kind of struggle with that because, again, what I've loved about Lower Decks is that knowing the backstory, knowing the canon makes the joke funnier.
Mhm.
It doesn't make it funny.
I love
Well,
that. That is an excellent way of putting
right
it.
now. It's Discovery. Discovery is the intro to Star Trek, modern intro.
I mean, I'd say it's
Discovery.
Prodigy,
I have
actually.
friends that watch Discovery. I have friends that watch Discovery that have never watched Star Trek ever in their lives, and because they never liked it, never appealed to them, but they do watch Discovery, and I think that's great. And I got a friend who watched Discovery, and now he's watched Strange New Worlds. I don't know if he's going to go back and watch the episodes from TOS, TNG, or whatever, but I think Discovery right now is the intro. I think it's if you're a non-Trek person, I think Discovery is the best intro. First of all, my intro is usually Inner Light from TNG. That's my intro to Star Trek. If you never
Such a
watched
great
it at
episode.
all, you say, "Hey, what's
Such a
to
great
watch?"
episode.
I say, "Go watch Inner Light TNG," and then I have a couple
But-
more TNG episodes to follow up.
But yeah, like, weirdly though, I'm not upset about Equality of Mercy, which very much depended on an awareness of what happened in Balance of Terror. If you didn't know Balance of Terror, you were missing really significant plot elements.
But then if you look at, they released the viewing numbers, the number of people who went back and watched Balance of Terror after watching Quality of Mercy, it was one of the most popular shows on Paramount Plus the
Yes.
week after.
Yes. Which is fantastic.
Yeah, I had to. I watched. I had to do it myself. I'm like, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
even though
watched
I
it
knew
that
the
night.
episode, I had to go back and see how much they matched it, and it was like, oh,
It was fantastic.
pound.
Like, I mean, it was spot on. I mean, that was beautifully done. But that also, I think, worked in the context of Strange New Worlds because we were literally looking at a situation that we needed to have a situation that Kirk had already done, that Kirk had already had an experience with for Pike to screw up, in essence. So that made sense. And like, in this particular episode, like for example, we completely hand wave what happens after, the abs of diplomacy, because we already know what's happening in Justice, right? Like we've seen it.
Well, he starts giving the exact same speech he
does.
gave on the Crystal World from season 1.
Yes.
The last time we saw him take off his shirt to try to save the world.
Yes. And then also, like, I get it. We also play with tropes, like the most dangerous game, super old trope, the alien hunter, super old trope.
Mhm.
Like, if you don't know anything about this trope, like, what the hell are you doing on the show? But also, we knew that wasn't a twist. Like, we knew exactly where that was going.
And we knew
that
Boimler wasn't going to die.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's the least dangerous game, guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a super fun episode. I really did. I enjoyed it. But I have some real reservations about this one. I just did not feel like this was all that in a ball of wax, I guess. Everybody else?
As I always do, what score would you give it?
Oh my god, I don't know. I think when I wrote the article, I gave it a 3 because it was funny and fun.
Out of 5.
Out of 5.
Okay.
But I probably, like thinking back on it, I'm probably leaning in the 2.5 range. Like it's fun, but it like doesn't do anything for me. Which sounds like some dates I've had. Not gonna lie.
I will go.
I hope they're watching.
I'll go 3.5. To Marie's point, I think it was a really fun episode. I enjoyed it. I laughed a couple of times. I was like, oh, I see it. But again, I think it needs to be. Before I either move the score up or move the score down, I need to see more episodes in the season. Because flashback to sorry, Keith. Picard.
You want this to be a Picard 2 show.
Man.
There were
Are
a
you
couple of
guys
episodes.
are you
We
guys
should have a
going out of
chalkboard here just to chalk off every time there's a mention of Picard.
Are you going out of 5 or out of 5 or out of 10? You said 3.5. Out of 5 or out of 10?
Out of 5.
Okay.
And so there were a couple of episodes earlier in Picard that I was like, oh my God, this is hitting, because I saw all of the ways they could springboard and take it. And I was like, oh, this, I think one episode I gave it a solid 8. And
It's like watching Lost, right?
and I was like, oh
yes,
my God, this is where
actually,
they're gonna go.
yes, that is exactly the experience I had. I was like, it's gonna go this, it's gonna go here, it's gonna go here. Hey.
Stop talking about his mother. We don't care.
I'm like, seriously,
cares about
guys,
his
like
mother.
seriously, this should have been like the Freud season. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that whole mother thing is like.
Ay. So back to Lower Decks.
And
Because
so
Keith is tracking this, guys.
Every
Right.
time
The
Keith
quiet
is
ones.
silent, he's like,
The quiet ones.
And so I just want to see how it fits in. But I think that, again, they have excellent writers on Lower Decks. So I expect it to continue to grow and build and be leading to a really good point at the end.
That was really intense there. Like, Michael, that was really intense.
I just listen. I believe in my heart that someone from Paramount is watching this podcast, because they just have to be.
But you
Yeah.
watch Star Trek, don't you understand? Belief is nothing. Only thing that matters is data.
This is true.
Is the information.
Valid point. All right, Keith, your turn.
I would give it a 3.5, and with the opportunity that it will go up, depending on if it just seems like Simpsons or original series where nobody learns anything from this episode, then it's definitely
Okay.
3.5 or lower. But if we see actual progress, if we see Ransom seemingly, it looked like Ransom was trying to get Mariner to screw up and so he could kick her out.
I mean, that's
And-
exactly what he was doing.
Oh, yeah. And if he's still trying to do that next episode, then it's going to make this episode look worse. If Boimler is back to planning everything, it's going to make this episode look worse. If this basically looks just like filler.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is it. That is exactly it. It felt like a filler episode, and I'm like, this is your second episode, folks. Like, we need to be strong at that gate.
If they pull a galactic barrier, I will die.
Justice Oz is not a rehash of The Naked Now.
Yeah, I don't like this whole galactic barrier thing.
Sorry,
In real life, I don't know what that is.
Why are you doing this to me? Like,
it's not on purpose.
I'm gonna try to go to sleep tonight. I'm still gonna be twitching. Like, I'm gonna hear Keith whispering, "The naked now," like this side of paradise, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh my god, stop!" Okay.
Hey, I tried not to mention this side of paradise, but
I mean, I'm gonna bring up Spock's brain.
I don't like this whole galactic barrier thing because that's not even a real thing, is it? Like, I don't even understand what the point of this galactic barrier. I know in original series they put it out there.
Yeah, they put it. They literally put it out there.
Very early, like season 1, episode 1 or 2, they put it out there.
Yeah, it starts in Where No Man has gone before. And what they're trying to do is they were trying to just emphasize that they had gotten flung into like East Jesus, and
that's not how galaxies work. And that's
no, but I don't know if you noticed.
That's how the galaxy works.
I don't know if you've noticed, but like TOS wasn't super spot on.
Oh, I know that.
There are a couple things they got surprisingly right, but yeah.
I always say, and people don't like me because of this.
But we love you, so it's okay.
I say stuff. People don't like me for a lot of reasons, but this is another reason. I often say that TOS isn't real Star Trek. It's like Star Trek before it learned to walk, before it learned to be
something. Baby Trek, toddler Trek. All right,
it's toddler Trek. It's learning. It's falling over. It's learning to grab.
I mean,
learning.
Enya Easton says life is a process of becoming, and this franchise certainly lives that.
I'm not saying it shouldn't have happened or anything like that, and I do love it, but I feel like Star Trek really got its grounding. I'm gonna say after Tasha Yar died, but not because Tasha Yar died, but right after she died.
Don't give Denise Crosby anything.
Oh, she's great. You don't like her?
Don't give her anything.
She's back in Picard season 3.
What I'm saying is Star Trek.
Yeah, they're just starting off all the way right.
Right after she died.
All right. So Marco, you not only are trying to own our podcast, but you're also like Paramount affiliated. Like, man, you have your fingers in all the pies, my dude. All the pies. All right, guys, we are rounding into 7 minutes past our hour, and there's so much we could talk about. I really, at some point, Michael, I want to get back to you on this whole sexual tension thing, because like, this either explains all of my bad relationships or all of your bad relationships that you saw that as sexual tension.
It was a carryover from the sexual tension when he ripped his shirt off the first time in season 2. You all didn't catch that?
No, that was
he was looking at his butt when he was.
That was a different thing. That was definite. This was legit just her trying to be like decent and then him being a dick.
She was literally looking at his butt while he was lifting pieces of conduit. And then they go in there and then they have this very flirtatious and tense moment where they're like looking each other. It's sexual tension they were setting up. Trust me. Trust me.
God, I hope not. That would not work well. But anyway, all right. So next week we're going to do obviously more Lower Decks. We would love it. It is going to be Star Trek Day. So look
56
out.
years.
Yep. Yeah. So look out for some surprises.
We just had a Simpsons moment. We started with sexual tension. We ended with sexual tension.
I'm trying to get away from the sexual tension. Like, watch this. And then Keith stole my thunder.
Michael, you're supposed to end by relieving sexual tension. That's the end.
And on that note,
good night, everyone.
Now, again, I'm going to say this again because we're near the end of our show. If you are our allies, we are not talking to you. We are not talking to you. This does not. Stop. Okay, we're not talking to you. Stop trying to take our and make it your god business. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
Our experience of grief independently.
Bruh.
Yes.
I love that they're in the comments.
So much is like I'm just reading the comments.
Yeah. They should have brought their child out. It's such a good point, Will. God, that's such a good point. And he's really thought about it too. You should be here. William, get over here.
I thought he had a girlfriend on Insta. It's been ages since I've mucked about, but
Okay, moving on. Let's move on.
we gotta move on.